Episode 22. So we're going to go back in time because we're behind. We can't talk about what these drinks are until the next episode.
That's right.
Which,
You'll
spoiler
find
alert,
out.
we're getting 2 episodes in. Just going to throw that out there. Even though people are going to change clothes probably.
I'm going to change hats.
I like that too.
Russ, he's not going to change shirt. He's going to take his shirt off.
That'd be a negative.
So we decided to do 2 episodes because there were some things that we wanted to vent and talk about. Real quick, though, something I forgot last time. Screw Madden 21 and EA because the Bills' rating of the defense is bullshit. So is Tre'Davious White's rating. Okay.
I was going to say, not only just the Madden rating, but Pro Football's top 200 or whatever.
That's
100.
garbage, too. I don't know who's voting on that.
It means nothing.
Yeah.
I guarantee Gilmore's going to be like top 5.
Yeah. So let's start with Muirfield Village. They played back-to-back weeks there. 19 under was a playoff the first week. And then Rahm ends up winning. I can't remember what his winning score was.
9.
Was it 9?
9, 11, whatever you want to call it.
No, we knew it was going to play longer. It was going to play faster. They let the rough grow as much as they could. The greens were faster. The greens were dying.
Yeah,
because it came out that Nicklaus was going to redo the greens.
correct. Yeah, I'd heard towards the end of the second week, Jack was ordering them to water the greens just enough to keep them alive for the tournament.
Right.
And he didn't care if they were rolling like parking lots.
Yeah. And what was Will McGritt's tweet?
He said he got to one hole, he dropped his ball marker, and it one hopped off the back of the green.
It's great.
Which is an awesome quote.
It is a great. I'll probably use that at some point.
Yeah.
I watched quite a bit of. I think I watched quite a bit of that. It was kind of tough because we were traveling back and forth to Mansfield. I think I watched the re-air of Sunday. So Rahm wins, new number 1 in the world, and we can start there because we've already had this talk about Rahm being possibly number 1 in the world.
Yep.
I think we're all on the same page here. I don't think Rahm's the number 1 player in the world.
I would agree with that.
So the only after we talked about that and I thought about it, it is a worldwide ranking, right?
It
and
is.
he has, I think he has 18 worldwide wins.
So we did talk
Something like
about that.
Yeah. So I mean, no, I still don't think he should be number 1 in the world, but he has played well for the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
So, but I think he's definitely probably a top 5, maybe 3 in the world, but I don't know if he's number 1.
I could buy 5 more than 3. My thing with the worldwide, and we kind of touched on it, and it's not me being an asshole, it's being factual. The strength of fields in a lot of events in Europe is weaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's factual. I mean, Rory came out himself and said, if you care about your game and getting better, you're going to move over here if you're from Europe. Yes, there's big events in Europe that they have that entice you to go back over there and to play in those events, but mainstream strength, I mean, week to week strength of fields, it's over here in the U.S.
Right.
This is his 3rd win. Now, I'll never discredit any wins. I'll never say, "Oh, this guy won. It was a side week. It was an off event to a WGC or a major." I'll never do that because winning on tour is winning on tour. You can't take that away from anybody. He did win a team event with Ryan Palmer.
Right.
Yeah.
So in theory, he actually has like 2 wins alone by himself here on the PGA Tour. I think Colin Morikawa is a better player right now in the world than Jon Rahm. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I could argue both ways.
Because Morikawa, more wins than cuts missed, which is a crazy stat.
Yep. Take away the team event, he got the same number of wins as Rahm.
Yep. And I always kind of go back to Brooks Koepka. So, yes, Rahm has 18, if what you're saying, 18 wins worldwide.
Yeah, something like that.
Kind of lumping that in with what you just said about the strength of field and things like that. In the same time frame, Brooks Koepka has 4 majors. And to me, I put more weight on 4 majors than 18 European wins.
Yes, and that's what I don't know how many episodes ago we talked about was just the worldwide ranking.
Yeah.
It's just goofy how they calculate it. Because I mean, DJ's still what, third in the world, and he's been playing terrible the past.
He's not a top 150 player in the world right now.
Yeah.
Guy can't break 80.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like when does it make? Because obviously we talk about what Tiger's got 118 worldwide
Right.
wins. Obviously that's in the last 23 years.
Right.
But at what point do you? Obviously, Rahm, everything's been in the past 3 or 4 years, which is impressive, I guess, if you want to say that. But yeah, at what point do you say, "Oh, it was 5 years ago; it doesn't count"?
I thought the world rankings took into consideration like
I thought
it was 2 years.
I thought it was 50 events,
Was it?
so that could be 3 years, maybe. Going back 3 years now.
Right. Yeah, there has to be a cutoff there. Otherwise,
Yeah.
Tiger would still be the number one
Right.
player in the world.
Yeah.
It's a weird calculation. It really is. And you can't. I think there's got to be a way you can refigure world number one. I don't think you can get rid of it because they have too many exemptions as far as I tried to think about this earlier. I mean, like, could you just get rid of it? I don't think you can.
No.
You got to figure out a way to have a world ranking system because they use it to get into tournaments.
All the WGC events. Think
Right.
about those guys that come over from Europe that never don't play here all year.
They can have
come
FedEx
over-
Cup points, right?
Yep, and come over here and play WGC
Right.
events. So it gives them the opportunity to.
Yeah, there's got to be a rework on it. I just don't. Right now, to me, it looks like a flaw. At one time, it looked fine. We're like, yeah, those guys are probably the top players in the world. But to me, it looks flawed right now just because my personal opinion is Rahm is not the number one player in the world.
Right.
So, according to Wikipedia, so Jon Rahm has 11 professional wins, 6 on the European Tour, 4 on the PGA Tour, and 1 other. So,
What's his other win in the PGA Tour? I thought this was his third total.
Oh, he won 2 this year, right? No. Did he win beginning of the year? Like, because of wraparound? He won the Farmers.
Professional wins.
The Farmers was his first one.
PGA Tour. He won the Farmers Open in 2017, Career Builder Challenge in 2018, the Zurich Classic in April of 2019. That was the team event.
Team event, yeah.
And then the Memorial this year.
So he's got 3 individual.
He's got 3 individual events.
Okay.
And you could discount the first 2 because they're part of the early wraparound, and a lot of guys aren't playing. But like you said, obviously you don't want to
Winning
discount
on tour is winning on tour, yeah.
But the strength of the field in those events aren't as strong.
Right. No, I agree. And I could be wrong, but I thought they took that into consideration when you do world ranking points.
It is.
I thought
It somehow takes the event strength of field, and then your finish, and it comes up with some sort of a number, a point value based on that event, and then your world ranking is based on like your average points over your last X number of events.
Okay.
So yeah, strength of field is
Factored
in that, but I just look at a guy that's got 3 individual wins, and then, like I said, Brooks Koepka has 4 major wins since 2017.
yeah. How
I'm
is
sorry,
he-
and Brooks Koepka has 14 professional wins,
And isn't
7
he-
on the PGA Tour. All of his totals are better. And I'm not saying Brooks Koepka should be the number 1 player in the world, but
You're
just-
I would put him.
If you're comparing it,
I would put him above Jon Rahm.
And isn't he like 5th in the world rankings right now? 4th?
would be and dropping.
Yeah, because I thought, Rahm, McIlroy, I thought DJ was still ahead of, which I still don't. But there's a big gap. I think if you look at the world rankings, like Rahm and McIlroy are like 9 point some points, and then like third place is like 7. There's a significant drop off.
So right now, 1, 2, and 3 are Rahm, McIlroy, and Thomas. Rahm has 8.97 average points, so 8.9. Rory has 8.5. Justin Thomas is 7.5. And then Webb Simpson is 4th right now, 6 point. There's a cluster in the 6s. So you got Rahm, McIlroy, Thomas, Webb Simpson, Dustin Johnson at 5. Brooks Koepka is 6. DeChambeau is 7.
Which I don't like the guy, but I still think DeChambeau is probably higher than Rahm right now.
Because DeChambeau's got to have as many PGA Tour wins, right?
He's got more.
He won earlier this year.
Fifth.
He won
back-to-back playoff events. 2 years ago?
And he won over in Europe. Won a big event in Europe last year.
Yeah.
Let's compare.
So he's got to be.
He's got to be right up there.
Very similar.
Which that's I don't know. This is what I mean. Like we're not.
I think DeChambeau's got 6 PGA Tour wins.
And the same thing. Not saying DeChambeau's the number one player in the world. We're comparing it to Rahm, who is and shouldn't be.
So that's a good comparison. DeChambeau and Rahm both turned professional in 2016. So this is an even better comparison.
Great comparison.
DeChambeau has 8 professional wins, 6 on the PGA Tour. Rahm has...
And 2 playoff wins, right?
2 playoff wins.
Rahm has 11 professional wins. Only 4 of them are on the PGA Tour. And I am not trying to shit on the European Tour, but I personally put more value into the PGA Tour. To me, it's kind of like comparing the big leagues and AAA, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're not shitting on it. It's borderline factual. And some players themselves have come out and said, if you care, you'd be over here. There's a reason Ian Poulter, Rory, a lot of them have homes over here.
Yeah.
There really is. Lee Westwood.
Yeah. Right, there's only probably 2 European events that are probably big. Obviously the Open and then the Irish Open, right, which is always the week before. That a lot of PGA Tour players go over for.
Usually like the Qatar Masters and Abu Dhabi. There's a couple Abu Dhabi events because they do the chase there's a chase over there too for money. Right. But yeah, I don't know.
Because I thought last year, that chase. I thought at one point like DeChambeau was like number 1 in the rankings over there, going near the end of the year.
Right.
Which is crazy to go over there a couple times and he was.
You win like
number
2
1.
events.
Right.
Sounds like another flawed system.
Yeah. So, but I don't know.
Sticking with Rahm, I mean, he played well. He outlived and outlasted the field. It was just
And what was
crumbling.
I think it was Friday or Saturday. I don't know what round he shot, like 65, 66, and he said it was probably the best round of golf he's ever
68.
played. Oh yeah, 68.
Yeah.
It says best round of golf he's probably ever played.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about too. But I want to talk about the penalty with Rahm. I know none of us have ever been in favor of someone calling in, but we don't have to call in now. You can just tweet the network and the PGA Tour. I would put it up there one of the most bullshit penalties I've ever seen.
Yeah, and
I agree.
I think you were mentioning to me, I don't know when we were at Quarry Creek maybe, it says that it must be
visible
clear to the naked eye.
Correct.
Yes.
There's no way, and like I said, even obviously Rahm was surprised when Amanda said something at the end.
Felt bad for her, and breaking the news to him, and he was like, I mean, it didn't matter in the outcome, but yeah.
Yeah, but at that point, if you watch him, I'm guaranteed he's not even looking at the ball at that point.
Yeah.
He's watching the hole.
That was my
He's
thought,
just setting his club up and down.
Yeah.
I would probably, I haven't seen anything that shows that or doesn't show it because I think the whole video is his club behind the ball.
Yeah.
That ball did not do enough to impact that shot.
No.
And I don't care how, I've watched a ton. Some people say like, oh, you can see the logo move. Okay, I saw the logo move. How do we know it didn't move back when the grass lifted back up?
Right.
There's not enough there to warrant a penalty. There really isn't.
No.
None at all.
Do you think if maybe not, I don't know. Do you think if he had like a 1-shot lead, if they would have called him on it? Or if they said he's got a big enough lead and someone tweeted us, we better call it?
I don't know, but if you do that because someone tweeted you, you've now opened up that door again.
Right.
Which
I
absolutely
thought that
cannot
was
stand,
done after the Tiger one at the Masters.
which was bullshit as well.
Right. He literally dropped it.
With the rules official standing there.
Yeah. And you're telling me, how does that person on TV know it wasn't 2 feet from where he hit the original one?
Yeah.
Like,
it's ridiculous. I can't stand it. If you're calling into tour events or tweeting the network, and take your 30 handicap someplace else and go watch tennis. I'm sorry. Just pisses me off. But speaking of penalties, Adam's boy DeChambeau, which by the way, thanks for the $5 I won that bet.
I did. I paid up.
DeChambeau,
I paid up even before he missed the cut.
That's right. DeChambeau trunk slamming, as I predicted, playing a tougher golf course. How much of an asshole is this guy? Normally I'd say jackass, but I'm going straight. This guy's an asshole.
Yeah, I don't know how he's basically calling the rules official there because he realized he was an idiot for hitting 3-wood 3 times.
Slugger White, like the head rules official. Then he
Right.
tells him, when I watch both videos of him and his arrogance, like he's not asking questions to find the answer. He thinks he's a know-it-all. I mean, that's just his overall mentality.
Right.
Yep.
He plays golf that way. I could tell from looking at it that thing was out of bounds.
Right.
It's in someone's yard
And then I like how he brings up a fill rule from 2 years ago.
on a fence that was currently owned by the golf course.
A mesh fence.
Let's say we talked about that. I mean, that's why courses have different local rules, right?
Yeah.
So the fill thing, I don't recall that one, but if it was a mesh fence, it was probably an interior a fence inside the course property marking something off. The fence that DeChambeau was talking about was clearly the property marker to somebody else's backyard.
Right.
Those are two different scenarios.
Dude.
If the ball, you can't request to jump a fence into somebody's backyard
Right.
to hit your shot. Whereas,
He was thinking he could do the Phil thing.
And
That's
how-
what Phil did.
Right.
And I want, okay, and if you say, okay, Bryson, go ahead and hit, how the heck is he going to hit that? That's an iron fence. What are you going to do?
But even still, like I'd have to go back and look. But in Phil's case, the ball was probably in bounds.
So Phil's, yeah, and that's what I think Slugger was saying. He's like, if we take a piece of rope and put post to post, big post to big post, in DeChambeau's case, the ball was out of bounds.
Yeah,
The things that he was looking at were actually inside the post line, whereas
the ball was
Phil's-
under those, which would make it inside the.
right. It was
in the yard.
Yeah, and with Phil's case, the mesh fence kind of came in a little bit on the course, but if you went post to post, his ball was still in bounds.
right.
And that's what they tried to explain to him.
And then
twice.
he looked at Slugger. He's like, "No, I don't believe it. I want a second opinion." I'm like, "This kid's a jackass. If I was Slugger, I'd go drown him in that creek that was right there."
The one he almost hit his third ball in.
Yeah,
There's probably nobody in the world that knows the rules of golf better than Slugger White.
right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I don't know how you.
And then when they tell him like no, he literally threw a little tantrum. He like grabbed the ball and stomped off like a child. You just said, "No, you can't have your cookie before you go to bed." What someone should have done, which I wish I would have been there, would have grabbed that shithead by the throat and said, "Listen, if you want to be pissed off, you hit 3-wood 3 times from the same spot
Right.
after you knocked out of bounds."
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. So I can understand he hits 3-wood first time it goes out of bounds. I could understand maybe hitting 3-wood again because you can keep it in. First of all, I saw an overhead picture from where he hit to where the ball went out. He literally would have had to hit like a 50-yard draw to bring it back in play. I mean, that's how far. I mean, back to the fairway. He probably could have hit like a 15, 20-yard draw to have it in play.
Right.
But that's how far right he was. And to, like I said, do it a second time, you hit 3-wood again. Okay. When you know that one's close to being out, just pull a damn iron out and hit it up the middle.
Or hit the first one back in play.
Right.
You could still make par. Worst, you make bogey.
And it's a par 5, right? So
Yes. That's what I mean.
He hits that and he still only got a pitching wedge 9-iron in.
You can still make par.
Yeah.
But
And
no, I'm going to jack
now
2
he
out of
missed-
bounds and
missed
then
the cut
yeah.
because of it.
Yeah. Sweet 10, Bryson.
It cost me $5.
Thank you for the $5. But to his point, he was mad at a cameraman a couple weeks ago because he didn't want to ruin his brand.
Yeah.
Right? That was his argument.
Yeah.
The only brand that kid is tarnishing when he plays is the tour. He's the laughing stock.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everyone want to sit around and blow him for how far he hits it, but true fans looking at him saying, "Man, this kid's an asshole."
I would love to know what some of the guys, obviously they're not going to say, but
Right. They won't.
what some of the guys on tour were thinking when this. I mean, I forget who they're Cantlay and somebody else they were playing with Friday.
Yeah.
They finished the hole out. Cantlay said he waited like 3 minutes after he finished the hole until Bryson finally hit up to the green. He's like, we had no idea what was going on back there.
Yeah. It was just I don't know, it's an asshole move.
So
I'm over the kid. Never start. Well, I did like him at one point. When he came out of college, this kid could be a good player. Then he started his old like, I want to put in 40 pounds. I'm going to hit further. Apparently, putting on 40 pounds makes you a dickhead too. So I'm just saying. But then I want to talk about Nicklaus. I want to talk about Nicklaus as a person, not as character, and I want your guys' opinion on this. And then we'll talk about why we're talking about it. So, Ricky, we're talking about it. Okay. He did some on-air stuff, and they were talking about how he changes the golf course. He literally tore up the greens. Tournament's still going on. They were cutting up the greens.
Yeah.
They're gone.
That sixth green was gone by the time tournament ended.
Yeah. So he's tearing up the greens. They say, he adds bunkers, he adds trees. And his logic behind it is, I do it to combat technology in the players, which I hate that argument. I really do, because you still got to put the ball in the hole. So, and he's been known in the past, like, oh, you guys want to cut that corner? I'm going to throw a bunker there. You're going to cut that corner. He brings in, like, already grown, pre-grown trees and throws them up so they're there for the next year. I've always had this thing with Nicklaus where I think he's a great guy. He was great for the game, and what he did was awesome. Still think that Tiger's 15 is better than Jack's 18. I always will, just because of strength of field. We could talk about that, too, if you want to. But I also think that Jack has a arrogance about him. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the arrogance is he's almost Johnny Miller-esque when it comes to talking about what players accomplished today compared to him. If you mention their names in the same sentence, he's just kind of like, yeah, well, back when I did it, it's like, don't really want to hear it, Jack. So I feel like this is his way of, like, he's using his legacy in the golf course he has to put on a tournament, which, by the way, he almost went broke buying this golf course.
Oh, really?
Yes, he bought it in 1966, the same year he won the British Open. And that's why it's named after Muirfield. It's named after Muirfield over in Scotland, I believe. And it's hosted a USAM, a Ryder Cup, Solheim Cup, President's Cup, and obviously the current Memorial. And I just feel like Jack has this, I'm going to do whatever I can to basically make it harder for these guys. I don't want anybody just looking as good as, I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like he's got this arrogance about him. I don't know if you guys get that vibe from him, or it's like, do you really need to put another bunker? Who cares if some guy just shot 8 under for the day? Who cares?
Yeah. Yes, I do actually agree with that. I maybe haven't paid as much attention to him altering his golf courses and whatnot, but I do think he has, I would say arrogance is a good vibe to it. Good word for it, I should say. When he's on TV being interviewed, they almost present it like you were, I don't know, listening to the president, or you're listening to the king, something along those lines.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So I don't hate your argument on that stance. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't mean arrogance in a mean way. Like, I would love to meet the guy. It'd be sweet as hell to meet Jack. I just feel like at times when he gets involved in a conversation, he feels like his word should carry more weight because of who he is. And then he just, the control he has is he has this tournament every year in his golf course. And if he doesn't like the way guys are playing it, I'm going to change it.
And I think the comparison for me, unfortunately, Arnold Palmer is no longer with us within the last couple of years. But to me, Arnie and Jack always were the exact opposite on that.
Yes.
Arnie always came off as the common man who was happy to see anyone succeed.
Right.
And Jack, I think, is kind of the opposite of that. And I think that's probably why the two of them they obviously competed on the golf course, but they've always been compared even into modern times.
Right.
Because they are kind of different personalities, almost rivals even after their career was done.
Right.
I don't dislike Jack, but clearly if I had to choose one, I'm a very big Arnold Palmer fan, and I think it is because his personality is more friendly, more outgoing, more happy to see everyone succeed, which I think doesn't necessarily describe Jack.
Yeah, and I think Jack's put 30 bunkers, I read. 30 strategic bunkers.
Added.
Right, adding 30 strategic bunkers.
Yeah.
But you literally just saw 2 weeks in a row your course, there was a 10-shot difference in the winner. Mm-hmm. Like, and obviously it was a different time of year that they play it, so it had to be a little softer this year, just based on timing, because usually it's in May, I think, late May. So to have somebody win that at 9, and I think the second week there was only 20 guys under par, something like that. So you have does he want it to be a U.S. Open? Like, you know what I mean? Like, most courses are everybody's making the cut under par, and you got 80 guys finishing under par.
I question if the course would have actually been that hard if they didn't play the week before. If they don't have a tournament the week before and someone doesn't shoot 19 under,
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
do they do the same thing?
Do they water it a little more and make sure it stays soft?
Keep it more normal.
Because obviously a lot of courses don't have room to make the course longer, right? Which was his argument, was just trying to beat technology. A lot of courses you can't extend tee boxes.
Right.
He's extending like 5 tee boxes by 20 to 30 yards.
He extended.
The first hole is like 30-yard difference, I think.
Extended 15, I think, this year.
Yeah,
They put in a tee
correct.
box.
Yeah.
A few years ago, he added 40 yards to the 18th hole.
Yeah. So I don't know, and maybe we'll get in this later with the ball change, but I looked up driving distance, and in the last 5 years, it's went up like 5 to 6 yards.
Like the average?
The average for the number one driving
okay.
distance. It's
Right.
only went up 5 yards in the last 5 years.
Right.
And it's went up 20 in the last 20 years, but there's obviously a big technology difference
There's also
from 2000 to 2020.
There's also
but-
7,300 yard golf courses.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like back in the day, like, if you got over 7,000, it was long.
Yeah, it was.
Now it's nothing to see a 7,200 yard course every week.
And I think courses back then, they didn't have the ability. If you want to talk about technology, they didn't have the technology to manicure courses the way they can today. Mm-hmm. So you could say it's 20 yards, but some of these fairways on tour probably stemp at a 10.
Right.
So you hit a ball out there, it's going to run out 15, 20 yards, probably further than it did back when Jack played someplace. Yep. We can get into the ball change. I mean, if you want to transition into that, and that's Jack's big argument. He's like, I've been crying for 45 years that they need to change the ball. So I want to hear you guys' opinion on the ball. If you think it needs to be changed or should it be changed?
I would say no. I mean, it's not like I just said. If I read 2020 driving, we'll go back to 15 because it'll just make it a little easier. There's probably 3 guys in the top 15 that none of us have any idea who they are. Charlie Belgian was number 6 in 2015 driving distance.
Who?
Exactly.
Never heard of her.
Patrick Rogers, who's bigger now, but 5 years ago, you had no idea who he was.
Correct.
Same with Jason Kokrak.
Yep.
Those are guys that you didn't ever hear of 5 years ago. You hear about a little bit now, and even there's a couple guys this year. Ryan Brem, number 3. No idea who he is. So it's not like you're telling me because they're hitting it further, they're playing a lot better.
Correct.
Look at Cameron Champ's number 2. He hasn't really done much. He's won twice.
Right.
But it's not like he's at the top of the leaderboard every week because he's driving the ball far.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that the biggest guy, even Rory's number 5 this year and Wolf's 7. Bubba's 8. So there's not a huge difference. And even going back to 2000, Daly and Tiger and Phil and Davis Love were 1, 2, 3, and 4.
What was their? Does it have their yardages listed?
John Daly was 301, Tiger was 298, and Phil and Davis Love were 288.7.
I mean, the ball was a little softer back then.
Yeah, but then
Bless
there's Scott McCarron, Casey Martin, Harrison Frazier, Matt Goggin. Like, some of these guys, I don't even know if they ever won on tour.
Right.
So it's not just because the ball is changing doesn't have a magnet to put it in the bottom of the hole.
Ball might have changed too because courses got longer.
Right. Yeah. And you got right.
Maybe not the reverse.
You think it's? I mean, I would think about myself. You know, a 480 yard par 4. I'm not hitting driver 7 iron like these guys are. Right. It's just not going to be fun for an amateur to have to hit driver 3 wood or 4 iron every hole into a par 4. It's just, it's not going to make it fun.
Games don't be enjoyable.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always hated the argument of trying to reverse technology in golf, whether it be the golf ball or the clubs. I thought, I don't have the exact quote, but they asked Ernie Els about this recently.
Yeah.
I think it's because Jack brought it up again with his tournament. So they asked Ernie Els about whether or not he thought the ball needed to be rolled back to control distance. And he said, and this is pretty much how I feel, again, not a verbatim quote, but he basically said, technology's here to stay. It's only going to continue to get better. Golf needs to, in order to combat it, golf needs to put a premium on accuracy.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with Jack thinking, okay, I watched hole X on my golf course. All the balls landed here. I'm going to put a bunker here. I don't agree with that.
That's what he does.
Understood. I don't.
Yeah.
But I think my thinking and Ernie L's thinking is maybe on tour the average rough length needs to get half an inch longer.
Right.
Or let's say you have a golf course and the average fairway is, I don't know, 40 yards wide. Make them 32 yards wide.
Right.
So you got guys like Bryson that are known now for absolutely bombing the ball. Well, let's make it so if he misses the fairway, he gets penalized more. If you can hit it 400 yards, go for it. But if you don't hit it 400 yards and straight, you get penalized.
You'll be struggling, yeah.
I'd rather see that. A little bit thicker rough, maybe a more narrow fairway. I think that's the way to combat it. If you can hit the ball straight, I don't care how far you hit it. If you hit it straight, you can be rewarded for that. But if you're offline at all, then you get penalized.
Yeah,
so I think that's the way. Instead of trying to reverse the technology, reward accuracy instead.
And from the business side of it, do you think club companies are going to be like, well, what am I going to do? Like, that's how I make my money.
Yeah.
Is we have the top technology, and we're figuring out ways to make it better every year.
Yeah.
That's how I make my money. Now you're going to tell me I'm going to go back 5 drivers?
Right.
Yeah. And I think I know there's a lot of golf courses that are regulars on the PGA Tour, and you can't just go massively change all the holes on golf courses. But I think a prime example from Muirfield is number 14, the short par 4 that is drivable, but it has the creek in front.
Yep. Yeah.
It's got a very narrow green, but it was reachable with the driver. Some guys even a 3-wood, right?
Right.
But if you went for it and didn't hit it straight, you could end up either in a creek, in the bunker, or in that rough left, which was basically dead because you're then chipping down to a sloped green going away from you. To me, that's kind of an example of the risk-reward situation. Hey, if you can drive this green, you can hit the perfect shot and drive this green, then you know what? You've earned that eagle putt. But if you miss at all, you're potentially very penalized.
You got to grind to make a score.
Yeah, and I kind of like that thought. Put the premium on accuracy instead of trying to roll back the technology.
And I think we talked about this last episode, is even if he puts bunkers there, okay, instead of a guy hitting driver, he's going to hit 3-wood, and now he's going to have a 7-iron instead of an 8-iron in the green. That does not affect those.
It's not that much.
You know, it doesn't affect those guys. And we talked about, I think you talked about with Bryson at Detroit, driving it through the 2 bunkers, and a lot of guys were laying up short of him. Like, okay, so I have one less club in my hand. If you put a 6, 7, 8, or 9-iron in these guys' hands, they're pretty accurate.
I mean, wasn't it Tiger who said 5-iron down, I'll take on anybody?
Yeah, and so I was watching a replay of the 2000 PGA Championship last night with him and Bob May.
Oh, yeah, I watched it too.
And I think it was 17. Bob May hits driver, goes left. Now, he recovered well, put one on the green. But Tiger hit a 2-iron out there and then he had like 198 into the green.
Right.
But that's what he took. And it didn't affect him.
Every time I watch this, he still walks in that putt. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's just these guys are going to figure out ways. They don't care if they have to hit a 6-iron in. It doesn't affect them. Now, if you tell me I got to hit a 5 or 4-iron in every time, I'm going to be like, oh, this is going to suck.
Right. So here's my argument with the golf ball. If I were to sit down with Jack, my rebuttal to him would be absolutely not. That's not the problem with the golf ball. And by the way, Jack, when you played with a better equipment, better golf ball than a generation before you. That evolved. It's not like Jack was first generation equipment and ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would remind him of that. The other thing I would say with the golf ball is, because what they want to do is they think that they need to, because he mentioned this and a few others have mentioned it who are all for them changing the golf ball. They want to force the pros to use a different golf ball. I totally disagree with that. And here's why. Now you're telling, okay, yeah, DJ's out there, Rory's out, they're all out there, and you want to force them to use a different golf ball. Whatever. Here's the problem with it. What about the kids coming out of college who don't have to use that golf ball, but now when they get to the tour, they got to use that golf ball? You're forcing people, like, it doesn't entice. Where do you draw the line? USAMs?
Right.
State Open? Like, where do you draw the line? Like, do you have to be a pro? And if you're a pro, you have to use this golf ball? Like, that just doesn't work. What about the U.S. Open? What about all the AMs that qualify for that? And they show up and you say, oh, by the way, thanks for playing U.S. Open. You now have to use this golf ball or this version of your golf ball. The problem is you can't do that because now you've eliminated a growth of the game. People are going to, it just gets so discouraging to people. You've drawn this definitive line. Now you're forcing people out who might not be enticed to try to get better, to try to make the tour. And they're like, well, that's kind of stupid. Or you doubt themselves, like, well, I don't know if I want to get out there. Is it going to go this far? Or is this ball going to work for me? What they need to do is instead of if they want to force the pros to use a different golf ball, here's where you start. Some of these top players in the world, they don't use the same golf ball that you and I can walk in a store and buy off the shelf.
Right.
That's what you should be doing. At one time, Dustin Johnson was testing 5 different dimple patterns of the TP5.
Yeah.
So that's an issue because now they're just they're fine-tuning a ball in a lab for him.
Right.
To me, that's unfair. Yes. Does that need to change? Absolutely. If I'm playing a TP5 or a TP5X and Dustin Johnson wants to play a TP5, TP5X, she's playing the same ball I could get.
Yeah.
The same exact ball. That's what they should be
But
doing.
then you're going to have guys out there rolling them in Epsom, salt and water.
That's fine. They can also trunk slam on the way home. So that's always been my thing is we know, Tiger did it. Tiger had a dimple pattern developed by Nike. He had a separate golf ball. These guys aren't using separate golf balls. You want to make them use a separate golf ball, but they want to go the other way with it and say, oh, we got to scale it back. When they really should be saying, you need to stop making your own separate golf ball. You need to start using what everybody else is using instead of what you are using.
Right.
That's my big hang up with it. And that's where I have a problem with them saying, oh, we need to scale back the ball, because they're not bringing up the fact that golf balls themselves are engineered for specific players. The other thing Jack is not talking about is the technology is not just in the ball. It's not just in the golf club. The technology is in the actual computerized technology. These guys get on a range and fine-tune everything. And they know that their shaft and their attack angle, everything is just perfect. Everything's on a TrackMan. It's so precise. That's why these guys are that good. Because week in and week out, they say, hey, I'm hitting a little too high. I want to lower it. Plug in the TrackMan. Try these shafts.
Right, because think about, if they say, hey, you have to use this golf ball, you think guys aren't going to go back to their TrackMan and say, all right, what shafts do I got to put in my clubs now so I can flight the way I need to?
Yeah.
They're gonna figure it out.
Right.
You can't limit everything.
I mean, these guys, I've seen guys, TJ, he was out there and they brought him, I think he was trying hybrids one day or drivers. They brought him like 3 different drivers to try. And the difference is like, if you and I want to try a driver, we either probably got to buy the driver, or if we already have the head, we try the shaft. They're like, oh, you want to try that? Give me 15 minutes. They run back to the truck. They put it together. Everything's so fine-tuned, and I think they forget about that. These guys are on TrackMan watching every specific number. Yep. First person to do that, Tiger Woods. Wasn't with the TrackMan, but he always had a video camera. Spent a lot of time analyzing his swing. So I think we forget about that part of the technology. Jack forgets that. And I think he also forgets that he also played with better equipment than a generation before him.
Right.
That's my personal opinion. Leave the damn golf ball alone. If you're going to change anything, they need to play the same thing that we can buy off the shelf at Dick's Sporting Goods.
Let's see what he can do with Bobby Jones's clubs.
Right.
Is that too far back?
That's pretty far back.
Yeah.
So enough about them assholes. Let's talk about the creek. Or should we?
It's up to you.
This one's up to you.
So I want to hear from you though. Like, how was your first experience in that tournament?
It was fun. I wish, like I said, we went down there Friday prior, and obviously greens weren't as fast as I've ever played them.
Right.
And we thought they'd be quicker the following weekend, and they were a touch quicker, maybe, barely, but they were still, and even. I think I was knowing in the past how quick I knew the greens were. I think I had trouble chipping on them because I was trying to do something perfect instead of knowing.
Yeah.
I could have just put it close and been okay. But it was a fun weekend, besides the 2-hour rain delay with one hole left that we had. But
Yeah, we didn't have one hole left. We had a few.
yeah, you had a few. Ross just got done. He just beat it. But
it was definitely a different experience. It was still the creek, and I'll never. As long as I can go playing, I'm going to go play in that tournament just because I love going down there. I love the atmosphere. I love the people. It was just tough with all the stuff going on, and nothing was really normal.
No.
The greens were slower than they normally have been. That's just due to heat. We haven't really had a lot of rain. And
Say it's been a very hot summer here.
Yeah,
we're seeing that at most golf courses.
Yeah.
They've had to let their greens grow a little bit so they don't die from the heat.
And I mean, we didn't stay with Barry, which
Yeah.
is understandable. I mean, that was different. That's what you got to experience. You got to
Right.
next year we're able to stay there. You got to stay at least a night. Play some AC/DC, take Marcus's money, do all those things.
Yep.
But tournament wise, I'm a little heartbroken over it. It's laughable, but that place in a sentimental way means a lot to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's 'cause you spent a lot of time down there. I know a lot of those people. And it was just one of those tournaments where I always felt like the field was rock solid. Took a lot of pride in winning it. I have a lot of friends down there. And then after last year losing in a playoff, that was the big goal this year where Marcus was. So, by the way, Marcus has like horrible luck finishing second.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
This kid finishes second more than Phil Mickelson. It's crazy. And then he played absolutely outstanding for both days. And last year we lost in a playoff at 12 under. And to lose by 1 at 17 under. And we didn't make a single bogey. No bogeys. Like, if you would have told me Saturday morning before I teed off, like, you're going to shoot 17 and not make a bogey, I would have bet the house there was nobody going to beat us.
yeah, and even so, obviously, I only watched you guys the last 5 holes after we finished, but it was 17 when Marcus put it to 5 or 6 feet,
Yeah.
and Mike puts it to 1.5 foot.
Yeah.
It's just it's not like you guys like lost it. It was
Right.
obviously Mike just played out of his mind, but
Unreal. And I think looking back on it, the tipping point was actually very early. We were trying to get settled in for the round, and they did what we did the day before. They buried the first 3 holes, which is totally doable out there.
yeah,
And they made a very nice par save on 4. Rolled in like a 12-footer, and we ho-hummed our par. The turning point was 5. We played 5 textbook off that tee over the creek, and they were all over the map. And then for Mike to knock it in from like 50, 60 yards for birdie after rolling it off the tee, just
right.
it was just like one of those, like, Marcus looked at me, he was like, is this how today's going to go? And I'm like, I don't know. But so far, yes. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Just take a little happiness out of it. We played that well, and just, I don't know, it's been nice to win it.
Yeah, I had fun, and even obviously Sean and I think he mentioned you guys too, but he told us before we teed off Sunday. Normally, he said if you shoot in the 70s, you tee off in the afternoon, and some people shot 75 Saturday, teed off at 8:30 in the morning Sunday.
Really?
He said there was a 5-shot increase difference from last year's field on the first day.
Yep.
Which we've been seeing a lot of this year.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Scores being a lot better.
Yeah.
Yep.
People got nothing else to do but play golf.
Right. Yeah, because obviously, Chris and I shot 73, and we barely made the afternoon.
Well,
We shot 1 over.
You and Joe played rock solid.
Yep.
And
Took a lot of money from Chris and I.
yeah, they did. You still owe me for front back total Saturday. No, I thought you guys played rock solid. And I thought your mistakes were minute.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they were, but I remember they were just could have been avoided, and it's like meh.
I mean, the last couple of years we're usually like 4 over each day for like an 8 over total. So this year, Joe and I went 1 under, 4 over, so 3 over total on the weekend.
And he missed the short putt on 11 on Saturday for birdie.
Yep.
Marcus and Joe had a combined like
yes.
4 feet, 4.5 feet, and neither one of them made birdie on there. Saturday.
So we played probably 5 or 6 strokes better total than we typically do together. So I was very happy with it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean,
we seem to get into bad luck in the flights where we're always in a spot where we don't even place. Like this year, we shoot like 6 strokes better than usual, and still don't even walk away with like a 3rd place prize in our flight.
Hey, at least you didn't have
gets
2 teams do not finish in your flight and still didn't make money.
that's true. I forgot about that. We got some DNFs over here. They couldn't even win by default.
Yep.
Hey, but we finished 5th out of 8 in the flight.
Probably the highlight of the weekend. I'm totally forgetting. The highlight of the weekend had to be Marcus's tee shot on 6 on Friday. I wish you guys could have seen that. Because the pin was just over the knob on this side, like on the left side of the knob.
Well, it sounds like I basically saw an instant replay of it on Saturday.
You did.
It's just that the pin was in a different place.
Yeah. So, yeah, you basically did see it.
Yep.
But, yeah, the thing, I mean, it never just left of the flag, and when it landed, I thought it rolled to the backside of the green. I was like, I think it's in that shadow in the backside. I said, you still have a look at it, but it'll be all right. And we pull up there, and everyone's getting their ball, and he walks over and just marks it. I'm like, is that your ball? And he's like, yeah. Yeah, that's me. They're like 3 feet. And it was good enough for 14 hundo in the skins pot. So
I'm still mad about that.
your ego on 12-0 holding up. The text message from Marcus to you was savage, though.
Yeah.
That was a savage. Marcus looked at me. I got out of the shower. I read the text. I was like, ooh. So I said something to Marcus. He's like, well, what do you want me to say? Oh, man, I'm really sorry.
I was going to say, you also set yourself up for that.
I know, I did.
Like, yeah, he's like, I don't know what I want you to say. Oh, I'm really sorry, man. Here's half of it. He's like, and I found out because I texted Sean and said, hey, you got any lob wedges in the shop? He goes, yeah. And you can buy one of the only skin you guys won yesterday. And I was like, oh. Well,
I heard that those kids that chopped mine made it from like 30 yards off the green, chipped it in, which makes it even worse. I wish nobody would have said it, but I wish they would have said, hey, they stuck it to like 3-4 feet like you did, made the putt.
Do any of you, I mean, I have one so I can share it. Do any of you have my skin got chopped in the worst possible way and it was the only other skin story? Do you think of one? I'll tell mine while you two are thinking. 13 at Corning, pinned back left during the qualifying day. We were one of the last groups out in the afternoon. I hit it in there to like 3 feet, that back left pin. I roll it in for birdie. That's when Fran said, he's like, hey, that could be pretty good today. And like back left on a Thursday, normally that pin's not back there under the qualifier. It's probably a good birdie in the skins game. So in Fran fashion, he was watching the board like Ricky Pruden for skins when they're hawking. And one of the last groups behind us came in. Fran goes, yeah, I mean, your birdie got chopped on a 13. I was like, oh, man, really? And Rapp was standing there and goes, oh, you guys had the other birdie on 13? I was like, yeah, I had it like a...
It's bad already when Rapp chopped you.
It wasn't Rapp.
Oh.
I said, yeah, I hit one in there to like 3-4 feet. He goes, get out of here. He's like, I don't know if I want to tell you this. The guys he played with at first, I thought he was kidding because it's Rapp.
Right.
Guy hit it left off the tee into the like shrubs. Walked over there, couldn't find his ball, dropped one, knocked it in from 210 with a 5 wood.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's 4.
Oh, boy.
So I was not real pleased with that. But anything else, boys? I'm going to call it quits for episode 22.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Got nothing.
I got some stuff off my chest I wanted to talk about.
That's good.
The whole trunk slam and DeChambeau throwing a fit, asking for a second opinion of Slugger White.
Yeah.
I feel so much better. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Sorry if I rambled. All right, gentlemen.
All right.